We are live. Thank you, everybody, for watching our special 35th anniversary of the Baltic Way. My name is Konrad Majeka. I'm the president of the Baltic American Freedom League. We have a special session today with many special guests that I am very thankful and blessed to have the ability to have bring these people in to discuss an integral, important day in Europe for the past 100 years. Today is August 23rd, and in the Baltics, there was a remarkable event that occurred on August 23rd, 1989, where we had 2 million Estonians, Latvians, Lithuanians that gathered together across, state lines and held a human chain, which was the largest in the world. What was significant about that event? Well, on that day, it was the largest peaceful protest. And what were they protesting? The Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. It was a secret pact where Stalin it was a secret pact. Sorry about that. A secret pact between the Nazis and the Soviets at the time. It's an important date because that led to the beginning of World War II. So when the Balts came together that day, we have to put into context and give you a nice little framework. 3 months before was the Tiananmen Square massacre. And it's important to recognize that day because this is such a bold movement that occurred that day, that regardless of what happened in Tiananmen with all the people that were killed in China, the Balts still came together and did this momentous event. So we will have a discussion with many, many special guests on here. I want to thank our sponsors of this show, and our sponsors are Blue Yellow of Ukraine, Blue Yellow USA, the Lithuanian American Community Los Angeles chapter, and the Lithuanian Days. So before we start with our guests, let's give you a little bit of a video show present about just a 2-minute show.
Over 2 million people gathered from all over the Baltics on August 23, 1989, and linked hand to hand to form a human chain from Tallinn, Estonia, to Riga, Latvia, to Vilnius, Lithuania, over nearly 350 miles, like never before, to peacefully demonstrate their demand for independence from the Soviet Union after nearly 50 years of being ground under the Russian boot.
It was an extraordinary show of mass defiance in the Baltic region of the Soviet Union. A human chain of protests that reached across the 3 Baltic republics, from Estonia in the north to Lithuania in the south.
August 23rd also marks the 50th anniversary of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact between the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany. The pact and its secret protocols divided Eastern Europe into spheres of influence and led to the occupation of the Baltic states by Russia in 1940, which lasted for over 50 years. Lithuania restored its independence in 1990 and so did Estonia and Latvia the following year. August 23rd is now an official Remembrance Day in the Baltics known as the Black Ribbon Day, and in Europe, a remembrance for victims of Stalinism and Nazism. Over 30 years later, Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania now strongly stand hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder, behind the people of the Republic of Ukraine as they fight to regain their independence and freedom after being illegally attacked and occupied by the Russian Federation. Slava Ukraini, Heroyam Slava. God bless Ukraine. God bless the heroes.
I wanted to thank our producer who did that presentation, Ivar's Bars Bezdepchi, and that was a wonderful presentation that he came up with. Dario, are you on? And we have special guests with us today.
Please, please listen. As I'm listening you now and watching your conversation, this session, very important, very interesting. But I have in mind my own idea of today, that it is not a commemoration only. It is not the remembrance only about something in past. What was, of course, very, very important. But it is not the past. It is present. It is today. It's continuing. That challenge for the mankind, for the Europe, maybe European culture, it is continued today. If it is possible to change the course of history back to Stone Age, or it is impossible. They are forces, they are fascist forces, as fascist Russia, which wants to establish that the events may be turned back to the situation, to the status where the right of governance and to rule will be given for those who have a bigger stone. And that Stone Age, with the power of owner of biggest stone, is unacceptable. But we should say it in all levels and everywhere, including international organizations. The cannibals should be excluded from international organizations of human states. That is the first. Otherwise we will stay in past, just remembering, just reminding something from the past, and we losing our own future. Our future is born today, and we have to stand for future today, refusing those Stone Agers, because we are facing them, the Stone Agers, as they are going with big stone and even proposing the peace, some agreements with cannibals. What agreements may be done with cannibals? Please come to reason. That is my call. Go to reasons, people, nations on the world, and don't cooperate with nations of cannibals.
Yeah, I'm an interesting word that you use, because whenever I'm speaking to other people, I'm saying this is the battle of civilization versus barbarianism, and I think you're dead on right.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Yes. I was confused by two sources of information. It was a question to me now.
No.
Conrad.
Just
Conrad, about what you were talking.
Just conversating on there. Let me see here. So Zhigi, I know you have to jump off soon. I guess maybe start with, what does today's date mean for you, and since you and Marko and Rihards are working today for the better of the Baltic future, what does it mean for what is today?
It is not for the Baltic people, not for the Baltic people only. It is going about the European people as all of them, and maybe the democracies over the world, if they are able to survive and to continue their creative being, opposing the Stone Agers, then they should be much more strong and united as they are today. If they are cooperating with Stone Agers and cannibals, they are losing themselves, and there is no future for them. They will become the victims and the trash on the trash for that unfortunate future, which will come with millions of low costs offered on the no fire of history. That deity of history is a wrong idea. We should not rely on deity of history. All of on what we must rely, it is humanity. To be humans to each other, not cannibals to each other. Not cannibals in direct sense or in spiritual sense, or in geopolitical sense. It seems that the world is full of cannibals, and they will not survive. This world will go to hell. Almighty God will make an order. He may decide any day that my project failed, and I will try to begin anew on another planet, because this planet of Earth is finished. It's for nothing.
Thank you.
Stephen Hawking preserved us about it. Hawking said, hey, people, you have 100 years, maybe 200 years at most, but look at new planets for your life. You destroyed this planet, and you destroyed yourself at first. First, you destroyed yourself. You did not want to be humans, to be brothers to each other. You wanted to govern and to consume, to eat each other. It is not for human being.
Thank you. Zhig, you have to jump on a plane anytime soon, and you've been
Okay, I'm really sorry because I will have to board the plane soon. So just few words, if you hear me well. Yeah. Well, recently my one good friend, Michał Kamiński from Poland, said that Molotov is always alive in Moscow. The question is whether we have Ribbentrop, but different sense. It's not only about.
We lost. Oh,
This time now till January 20th inauguration is exactly the time when Putin is hoping to get this appeasement, another kind of Russian peace that might open the way for new kind of Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact and atrocities that happen. So I was yesterday in Democratic convention. I heard many good words by the end of the convention from Kamala Harris, from actually 4 other speakers, Senator Kelly, our Baltic cheerleader, Panetta, Mr. Kinzinger. So many statements that we've been hoping from Washington to hear. I really hope that those statements are turning into deeds. I really hope that the Democratic administration till January 20th will speed up the military system, because it's not going so well. I really hope that F-16s will reach Ukraine. I really hope that air defense will be supplied. But I also hope that after inauguration of January 20th, we will come back to the idea that the Baltic Musketeers were fighting for its invitation of Ukraine to NATO. We have already started accession talks with Ukraine in the EU, but this will not end successfully with NATO. We have Polish presidency of the EU coming next year. We have Lithuanian presidency in 27. Let's use those opportunities, but let's create something together, like Americans and Europeans, like we did in Central Europe, like we did in the Baltic states, and that's why assistance and leadership of organizations like Baltic American Freedom League, all other immigrant communities are essential. Ukrainians will not do it alone. We need to help them. Poles, Lithuanians, Jews, Taiwanese, Cubans, any friends of freedom. Let's unite after inauguration and let's storm all the states. Let's meet all senators, all congressmen, and let's do what we did for our own countries, opening the doors of NATO to Ukraine. And I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Marko, and I guess same question. What does it mean to you today, and what does it mean for all your work for the future of Estonia?
Yeah, it's a very special moment to join you from Kiev, and it has been a long day today. We traveled to Sumu, just got back from Sumu. Sumu, if some of you don't know, is a very close city to Russian border, just 35 kilometers from Russian border, and actually just from across that border, a very successful operation of Ukrainian armed forces are going on right now. We met a few commanders of units for fighting right now on Russian territory. We delivered some help to them, some equipment, and the messages from them, what we got today, were very inspiring. Yeah, heavy battles going on right now, but Ukrainians are moving ahead. They're moving forward, and the spirit is high, and they recognize this fight, particularly on Russian territory, as some sort of turning point in this war which is lasting already more than 10 years. Today here in Ukraine is also a very special day. Today is a flag day of Ukraine, and also tomorrow, don't forget, is a day of independence of Ukraine, and it coincides with these very remarkable historical dates. We celebrate or commemorate today here, celebrate our Baltic Way and commemorate this tragic day of 23rd of August 1939. And I have been numerous times here in Ukraine, and together with my fellow musketeers, and we always felt that the fight still is going on. What we launched in 1989 as a free nations standing together in that remarkable human chain. I myself participated as a student of Tartu University. I stood at the Estonian Latvian border on 23rd of August in 1989. But I never believed that what happened later on, and how quickly we regained or restored our independence. But today we understand that this independence is in real threat, and our freedom is in real threat. And what is going on right now here in Ukraine, what they do, what they're fighting for, is much more than just our independence. Then I asked today Ukrainian commanders who are leading their forces to fight against Russians on Russian territory, what they need from us in order to make sure that peace and victory are achieved as soon as possible. The answer was very simple. Please, Americans, stop making restrictions on us. Please give us right to shoot legitimate targets on Russian territory with a weaponry actually which is badly needed, and ammunition which is badly needed, or which is very much effective in order to achieve those goals. And don't please be afraid that could lead to some sort of escalation. No, that won't. That would lead to the peace and the restoration of peace in Europe. And that was a very simple message to us today again. I think this is very remarkable to get this message specifically today on 23rd of August 2024 here in Ukraine.
Thank you. Rihards, let's get your account of the discussion. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Yes, sir.
Well, again, I was at that time 4 years old, so I don't have a lot of memories on that particular day, but I know it was really something that shook up our region, the aspiration for freedom through the peaceful means. Of course, what you mentioned as well, Tiananmen Square, it also played a role as well, obviously. But way before, it was also the movement of Solidarność in Poland that also started to break the ice that I can call the Soviet Union. But one thing that I really wanted to stress at this particular point, I have moved right now from the national politics to the EU politics. I'm right now in the House of Democracy of the EU in Brussels, in the European Parliament. And here you mentioned that, of course, this evil pact, the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, and then both Europe recognized the crimes committed by the equivalence of the Nazi regime with Stalinism. And this is a key word what you use, and this should not be used, because it wasn't Stalinism, it was communism. And this is exactly the ghost of the communism is still here in Europe, present. And I would even go beyond. In our part of the Europe, in let's say in the Baltics, communist parties are forbidden by law. Whereas in rest of the Europe, it's a legitimate political force that is being elected, that is being represented in the national parliaments and also in the European Parliament. And it shows that we still haven't learned from our, historical lessons. If we announce as a European Parliament in 2009 that we recognize the crimes committed by communism, same as the Nazi regime committed communism, is equal, they should be treated as such as well. But we can see we continue to appease the oppressor, to appease the aggressor, and in what name? Well, economic means, economic growth. This is lately becoming main topic in Europe. How to keep Europe's competitiveness while there's an open hot war going on in Europe. We should be moving to the war economy if we want to outlast Russia, that is preparing, that is already the war machine going 24/7. The economy is war economy as well. And I would put it very clearly. I think in even 21st century, their pact signed with the secret protocols attached to them. We see for the past year how the regimes, and I mean, oppressive regimes, authoritarian regimes, they signing one agreement after another, cooperation deepening in security, in defense. Recently, Russia and China signed security agreement. Recently, Russia signed defense agreement with North Korea on a mutual cooperation. For God's sake, where is this world going on? And our response? Well, let's not escalate. Let's try find a ways to de-escalate. On what merits? On what basis? What we have to prepare right now in Europe, for example, another topic which is hot as well as across the ocean, migration. Well, we are asking, our part of the Europe, we are asking to have equal treating of the countries that are actually securing Europe's and NATO external border. Because everything, all our investments in strengthening our border, both not only high-tech equipment, but physical border building. Actually, in the Baltics, we already militarize our border. We're planning to actually lay out anti-tank mines. We are laying out so-called dragon teeth, anti-tank objects. And this is all our taxpayers' money. All of that, nothing. There's nothing centralized right now in Europe in support of the countries that are actually securing the external border. And this is, again, a huge issue because, again, there are, member states that are far away from Russia, that are far away from Ukraine, that they kind of don't register that there's an open hot war going on, that actually, if we don't stop at the front lines, it might have a spillover effect in different parts. And it not necessarily have to be conventional means. Hybrid threats, this is what we're starting to experience more and more. It's not only migration, the migrants being, pushed over the border. We see, jamming devices being widespreadly used in the Baltic Sea region. We see the undersea cables sabotaged. We see actually right now, all Germany military bases are on a high alert because there is a high risk of sabotage on European soil, European Union soil. So we already are in a mess. And the question is, how do we prioritize? Is it security or is it our competitiveness globally economy? And seems, things like, now I'm speaking as a European Parliament member, and I have to criticize, and I didn't vote for von der Leyen because there was no register of sense of urgency. I'm not talking about Ukraine. I'm talking about Europe, actually. Ukraine is already, there is no doubt, there was already in the European Parliament, the first resolution adopted. It was needed to show that Europe still stands strong with Ukraine. Yes, there are marginal forces that are trying to undermine the unity within the EU. But still, when we look at the priorities laid out by the incoming commission, I'm very worried, very much worried that there will be politicians who will think that, well, Ukraine might break, or we will push them to break, and then we will sit at the negotiation table. And this is, you don't hear only from the leaders, but you hear from the elected representatives as well, that one condition that we have to do as soon as possible to have a ceasefire and start the negotiations. And then you ask these politicians, did you support it to establish the International Criminal Court to trial the war criminals? Yes, I supported that. So now you're saying that you're ready to conduct negotiations with individuals that the ICC has issued arrest warrant. How ludicrous the idea itself it is, and what image it makes of the EU, of the democratic part of the world to the rest of the world, because the rest of the world also matters. It's not just Europe, it's not just US, Canada, but it's also Africa, it's South America. They're watching what is unfolding, and they see that those that make might by force are gaining momentum, and we're going to side with them rather with those who are saying, rule of law, human rights, prosperity. Well, those things doesn't protect you. Human rights cannot have withheld the rocket, seed that's being launched at you. You need the proper air defense systems. You cannot just waive agreement and say, and this is going to protect you from incoming rockets. So this should be understood as well for the policymakers, not only in Europe, but of course right now increasingly in America as well. I mean, we saw the votes. Yes, it did pass, but it was deeply alarming. It really resonated from the 20th century. The vote on Lend-Lease. Please, my American colleagues and friends, look up the vote in 1943 and compare it to the votes this year in the supplementary item for Ukraine and Israel together as well. And you're going to see almost identical similarity. Democrats, yes, voting. Republicans, almost in the same numbers, voting against. And this is a problem. And this is a problem. And history showed that was the right thing to do. Absolutely. Of course, I mean, at that point, different circumstances, but that was the right thing to do. So bottom line, the last point, so it was why this date matters to me. It matters because the ghosts of the past are still present. And they're actually not ghosts. They're physical beings that are attacking, that are looting, that are killing, and that are actually undermining what we have trying to secure for the past 75 years. Well, the Baltic countries, at least for the past 35 years or 33 years to be precise. So in this sense, last point, why this date in particular for me it's important. It's the day of the anniversary of the National Guard's establishment. 33 years ago, we established the National Guards. That is our voluntary military service. And actually, it was established because of the lessons learned. Because we didn't give a fight in 1940, unfortunately. Because we were waiting for the order that never came. Now we have changed our laws. If there is external aggression or internal aggression, we don't have to wait for our supreme commander to give an order to go and defend. We already have the rights to do so. We are trained in that way. Different units, different army, units, and etc. So this is again, we do learn from our history lessons. But does the rest of the democratic world learn? Well, this is a question that I will leave for the rest of the discussion as well.
And before we take a question from some of the comments that we have here in the panel, so if you have a question, drop a comment in onto YouTube. I will say this is as far as that getting the American people, contact your congressman, contact your senators. We have the link in the description of this video that you can actually click type in your information and send a message on there. So, question that I have that I wanted to highlight for the three of you, for all of our special guests. Do you have any hopes that the Russian people will take some inspiration from history and form their own Baltic Way and reject Putin-style authoritarianism once and for all?
Oh, toughy. I'll be very brief. No, because there was this ill-famous press conference on, let's say, the prisoner swap between U.S. and Russia, and there were prominent Russian oppositioners as well among them. Those who I admire, actually, Vladimir Karamurza. I mean, his descendants are actually Latvians, and his remark was that it's not to blame the Russian people. Still, don't let them down. Not all of them are like that. And actually, right now, if Europe wants peace, and that was his words, we should invite Russia to join EU. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Not talking about still ongoing atrocities that Russia is committing in Ukraine. Absolutely saying we are not capable to influence anything in any way. Well, Marko definitely also followed this press conference. It was disturbing, to say the least. It was really disturbing. Even those Yatrin as well, his remarks was just. At some point, I just switched it off. So that was I would say the elite of the existing Russian opposition, at least the visible ones. And if their mindset is in that kind of formation, I don't see any changes soon enough in Russia's society, nor the least even talking about changes from within. The grip is strong. Different movements. What might trigger actually any changes are Ukrainians actually with their military operation right now in Russia. That might actually show how weak and vulnerable is actually the regime, how incompetent, how corrupt, and then revealing all the casualties actually that this war is causing to the ordinary Russians, I would say. So I promise to be brief. Again, I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. I mean, we're here to be fluid and just have a discussion from people that are real, want to know information. So yes, absolutely. Don't apologize. Marko, you have any additional points to the question?
The question is obviously a fair question, but those people don't understand what freedom means. Russia is a zombie nation. It's I cannot even imagine that they truly understand what freedom means and why they should stand up for that. And as Rihard mentioned already, it was ridiculous actually when the three leaders of Russian opposition who were released from this horrible jails and prisons of Russia, they wanted to go basically back to and not to really say something.
They said even their human rights were violated with this kind of prisoner swap. I mean, how insane is that?
Yeah, and probably more important, rather than to worry about Russia. Russia is lost case. I mean, Russian nation is lost case, unfortunately, for many generations to come. Because and probably more important today to ask is, can people of Belarus to stand up and form the chain? Can people of Georgia do the same? When we see that Russian occupation, political occupation, is taking over or took over already Belarus in 2020, and this year in front of our eyes, actually, Georgia is going to be occupied politically by Russia. Can people of Georgia and Belarus do the same what we did in 1989? But I agree with Rihard that the key here is the victory of Ukraine in this horrible war. This is the only way how the freedom of nations, including ours, can be reassured. And this is where we have to put all our energy today to help Ukraine to win in this war.
Yes. May I say 2 words very short? Konrad,
Yes.
are you listening to me or not?
Yeah, I am.
Landsbergis. Yes. Let me say, we do represent here on our conversation, that session, we are representing the normal world of normal nations. Russia is abnormal state of abnormal people, because Putinism made it, as Hitlerism was short to remaking Germans into beasts. Russia's system of Putinism is more successful of Hitler's. And so we must withstand this challenge, which is very natural for Stone Agers in Russia, or that abnormal state of Russia, because for them it is only chance to continue and to survive and to strive for the world governance is to remake us into abnormals as they are. Here is our front line: to stay as we are, human democracies, and to be sufficiently strong to defend ourselves and our future and future of our children. And otherwise, we will not have any future, and we will lose the future of our children. We are normal states. Russia is abnormal. Don't allow Putin to remake the rest of the world into an abnormal world.
Thank you. I was gonna bring on Osha Talat-Kelpsha, who's our guest, to ask a question. But coming up after this question, I'm gonna bring on Tony Mihkelson and Linas Koyalis to the group. But her question for the guest speakers is, let me see here. Given Hungary's policy change on refugees in Hungary and Ukrainian refugees sleeping on the street, as well as its provision of easy access to Russians to the Schengen zone, will the EU take any solid measures against Hungary?
Well, I guess in an autumn session when we'll see some practical moves in that direction. But there is, of course, already reaction to this decision by Hungary to let in the guest workers from both Russia and Belarus. The question, of course, is everyone will say that migration is exclusive competence of the member states, employment policy is exclusive competence of the member states, and they do see as they fit. But nevertheless, Hungary is a part of Schengen. And in Schengen as well, there's different mechanisms that can be used. But of course, it's a lengthy process again. But the swift process is for the countries that are neighboring Hungary actually restore the border control. And we'll see how the ordinary Hungarians, after that is even being practiced for a week or two, will applaud Orban for his adopted policies. But of course, when we speak about practical steps, the European Commissioner responsible for internal affairs, has already demanded, actually written response by Viktor Orban government. How that actually corresponds with EU policies, both their various policies, sanction policy, Schengen's policies as well, foreign affairs, defense, many. And of course, if there is not alignment in one of those, then there are legal ways how actually then the European Commission through the European Council can go and enforce something. But it's going to be difficult. Me myself, I have reached out directly to my former colleague, the counterpart, the chair of the foreign affairs. I sent him a letter. Of course, I tried to say that, look, we're not at war. We are trying to use the diplomacy to speak to each other. I don't support whatever you do already, undermining the support to Ukraine. But in this regard, what you're doing, you actually undermine my country's security in particular, because we see that through these kind of schemes, Russia is sending in their agents, FSB, GRU, you name it, and we see these high alarms and on the high risk of sabotage attempts, successful, not successful, attempted, already done, and it only will increase. And you officially open a door for legally for these kind of saboteurs to enter Europe, then you become accomplice to this crime, and it's punishable. So therefore, of course, one MEP cannot do much, but European Parliament, again, it's not a legislative body, which is to many surprise. We can make amendments what the European Commission submits, legislation and a change, but we don't have the legislative initiative in that sense. So with Hungary, again, I think what is interesting, I think Marko can comment more, right now on the territories that is under Ukraine's control on Russia's territory. There's one particular town which controls the only flow that remains from Russia to Europe gas. And the only countries that continues to receive directly gas from Russia is Hungary, Slovakia, Serbia, and Austria. And I think that is a bargaining chip for Ukraine, because Orban as well already threatened to veto the support for this windfall money, the 5 billion that Ukraine can use for purchasing weapons. And I think, it might be that Ukraine says, if you go ahead with that, we just stop the gas flow. And they can do that. They already did that with oil. And we saw what reaction was from Fico in Slovakia and Orban himself in Hungary. But yes, it is the dark horse in European Union. It has to be admitted. I mean, Putin's dark horse.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So I brought the screen onto your screen, Tony and Danuta Majeka. Tony was the founding president of the Baltic American Freedom League, and Danuta Majeka, a longtime board member. We also have Linas Koyanis on screen, who was in the Reagan administration. So I guess my question to you, Linai, because you were on the inside of the Reagan administration, you worked for President Bush around this time. What is your perspective of the Baltic Way? What was the White House conversations and analysis looking like from them?
How much time can you give me? 6 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours?
Well, we'd love to have a follow-up one-on-one with you at some point, and just maybe over a beverage as well. But yes,
I drafted half of the Captive Nations resolutions between 83 and 88. So I can tell you a little bit about these things. But let me just read my little statement here. From 1981 to 1989, I served in the Reagan administration at the Pentagon, White House, and State Department, all positions related to U.S.-Soviet affairs. Then also as a lieutenant in the U.S. Naval Reserve as an intelligence officer in the Office of the Chief of Naval Operations in the Pentagon. From 90 to 97, I was founder and head of the U.S. Baltic Foundation. And maybe this will be an interesting headline in the next Baffle newsletter. I cooperated with the CIA, both when in government and at the Baltic Foundation. I'll sum up my views from these days to simply emphasize the general mood of, first, the political appointees in government, and second, the civil, foreign, and military service professionals. With every administration, certainly in foreign policy, you have the political people who come in with a president, and then you have the career civil servants that continue from president to president. We, the political Reaganauts, in all these agencies, rejected the premise of peaceful coexistence with Moscow. Our buzzword was roll back, to roll Russia all the way back to the walls of the Kremlin. As to the career foreign policy professionals, I felt a similar relation regarding events in Europe and the USSR. Anyone knowledgeable of the America's non-recognition of Stalin's illegal annexation of the Baltic states was drinking champagne. America's 50-year, sometimes derided, even by people like Henry Kissinger, policy had been the right one all along. I remember clearly walking up and down the halls of the State Department. Everyone was walking on air. We couldn't believe the Berlin Wall had fallen. And whether it was the Baltic Way or the Berlin Wall, we were ecstatic. The huge negative at the time were events in Tiananmen Square. As we were celebrating Eastern Europe, the Baltic states, we were very upset with how China, the Chinese communists, killed students in Beijing. Today, I'm a screenwriter in Hollywood. I'm working with the BBC in London on a limited series similar in tone and length to the series Chernobyl. I've titled the project Red Heist, the story of how the first generation of Russian, Lithuanian, Ukrainian, Polish, and other oligarchs stole massive state assets from the people. A key premise is that the so-called industrialists of the late USSR monitored and perhaps even promoted or channeled the democracy movements, such as the Baltic Way, with the goal of stealing multi-billion-dollar assets in the chaotic years of the 1990s. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure for you to be here in this discussion. And Tony and Danuta, you're right on. Your mic is muted, but let me. Wanted to hear what your perspective was leading up to August 23rd, 1989, with the Baltic American Freedom League.
Conrad, am I online?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I want to get past memorials. I don't want to talk about virtue signaling. The whole point is this. As an American, Lithuanian, I also served in the military during the Vietnam era. I believe the words of General Patton, who said, I'm not asking you for you to die for your country. I want you to make the son of a bitch enemy die for his country so that we win. And I don't think we have a mentality here among a lot of people, basically, that's exactly what we need to do. I just want to throw one aspect out here. I would invite all of our representatives from the Baltic nations to come back to the United States and start talking to our cultural organizations to get them involved mentally in the process of how we can work through the American Congress to raise the millions of dollars necessary for the defense of the Baltic nations. I don't believe that our groups in the United States essentially are mentally recognizing that we are in a war footing. I believe that they are culturally organized and are in avoidance. They go to festivals, they visit relatives in the Baltic nations, say goodbye and come back to the United States. Our goal is to basically to energize these people because we can get things done through Congress. We have the ability, they are listening, but we need more people from our Baltic nations to make that a priority as opposed to this cultural activities. That's my message here today. And so therefore, our representatives from the Baltic nations, we invite you to come back to the United States and start talking to our major cultural organizations, including Bendruomene, and say, okay, folks, it's time for you to do your civic duties here in the United States. You have a right to advocate to the American Congress, and Baltic American Freedom League has the means to do this for them. All they have to do is pick up a cell phone, and we can do this in large numbers. That's my message. Thank you.
Thank you.
We want success, and we need to move ahead.
Danuta?
I have been amazed recently about the success of the Ukrainians as far as the spirit and also the wisdom of going into areas that are unprotected and seriously having some victories against a juggernaut that everybody thought was Russia, and it's not. Everyone also is always fearful in the West that this thing is going to lead to a nuclear war. And right now, it is not, which is amazing. There are troops that are being drawn. There are troops that are being drawn out of other areas because Putin has made a meat grinder for all of the conscripts from Russia and the surrounding areas, now drawing troops not only from areas that he didn't have before and destroying an entire generation of men, which is absolutely awful. And also Belarus is now going on the war footing and bringing people out. And all of this said, they are also drawing from the Kaliningrad region, which is rather interesting because that sometime in the future, whether it's next year or in 5 years or in 10 years, the Suwalki Gap has got to be narrowed, closed, and made back into some kind of a Prussian entity. So there is work to be done. There is a great deal of work to be done going into the future. The Baltics are not safe, not while we have this criminal in the Kremlin whose mind is just on a destructive level for not only lands and properties, but an entire civilian population of human beings. This is so inhuman as to what is going on. And from my perspective, having been one of the founders of Baltic American Freedom League back in 1980-81, and that era, witnessing the idea, the seed that was planted and that was watered and that was nurtured, that Toronto took over the Black Ribbon idea after Baltic American Freedom League. This is one of 12 items that we were going to be creating. And then on top of that, 10 years after the inception of this, 3 million people held hands in the Baltics. And this is still a world's Guinness record of a protest. And just the actual action and the buildup of the courage, because it takes courage to stand up to someone who is absolutely treacherous. And we're finding out it may be a straw man, although that straw man has weapons. And unfortunately, the leadership in the West is trying to tie Ukraine's one arm behind their back as they try to survive. And they are also being bled to death by those particular policies that are promoted in the West. At this time, we are in a very dangerous footing all the way until November. November, we have an election here, and November is the end of the fighting season, in a sense, and it turns into the winter and the muck and the mud and all of that in the battle areas. So yes, my dear friends, it is a time to look back on what our countries put together. I myself am a natural born Californian. However, my roots are strong in Lithuania, and my heart is also in Latvia and Estonia and Poland and Finland and Sweden and all of the countries that are surrounding the Baltic. So that is what I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Question from the audience for Linlay. This is for you, Mr. Koyatis. What are some of your observations on how politicians, bureaucrats, and other unfamiliar with the Baltics became educated on Baltic issues? Was it primarily through national security?
Well, anyone who was involved in U.S.-Soviet affairs knew about the Baltic states. You didn't need to explain that. If I can say this, I've got a concrete example. I sort of became known as the Mr. Baltic guy of the Reagan administration. As some of you might recall, when I joined the White House in May of '83, the first thing I did was organize Baltic Freedom Day reception with President Reagan in the White House. I think some of you might have attended that. But later on, even after I had left the White House, and I was at the State Department, I remember sitting at my desk at State, and I got a call from the Secret Service at the White House, and they said, Linus, it's August, and we have the big Captive Nations Day proclamation signing ceremony with President Reagan in the Rose Garden. And there's a gentleman here who has a Soviet passport, but he says he's some sort of democracy, a leader, whatever. Have you ever heard of him? And should we let him into the Rose Garden with President Reagan? He's got a Soviet passport. Well, I asked, well, who is it? And they said, Vytautas Landsbergis. So I had heard about him, and so I told the Secret Service, yeah, I heard he's a really good guy. Let him in. So yeah, but we all work together. DOD, CIA, NSC, other White House offices, state. There was no internal opposition. If there were some, and I know Paul Goebel might disagree with me on this in the sense that he would say there are more in the State Department and career Foreign Service officers who, as I say, are Russian apologists. They'll always find a reason to excuse the Russians for inhumane behavior. But in general, we were all, and this includes both Republicans and Democrats in Congress. Everybody was on the same page.
Thank you. Let's see here. I know we've been at over an hour, and I know it's late in Europe. So if any of you gentlemen wanted to drop off, that's understandable. Any words about the?
Yes. Conrad?
Yeah.
Just another point. Just wanted to make this point clear that regardless of what happens in the U.S. presidential election, the United States is not going to retreat or get out of NATO. The United States needs NATO more now than ever before. And I also believe that something may come from the meetings that President Duda had with Trump several times. So I believe that a lot of this basically will work its way out. So I'm not looking in the negative on this situation. I'm hopeful that the United States recognizes it has its interests that include Europe as well as Asia. What is also helping that situation is the fact that beyond NATO, Europe, we have nations like Japan that has become extremely active and sees the threat from Russia directly.
Excellent point. Rihards, you wanted to make a point before you have to leave.
Yes, thank you. Yes, well, August is empty month in Europe, and particularly in European Parliament, and they're closing down the building, and I have to leave. But no, really, thank you for organizing this. This is important both to commemorate, but also to think how things that happened in past resonates already in nowadays. And just my 5 last cents, what I wanted to say. Actually, I have to stress that we should not say actually Baltics are not safe. It's a false narrative. Baltics are safe. We are in the NATO. The NATO is present. We have 3 brigades building up. What we have to say, the security risks have increased. That requires additional input, both in aerial defense systems and etc. But if we say Baltics are not safe, it also actually damages the prospects actually for us to attract important investment. Who investor wants to invest if everyone around says, well, those countries are not safe? So this is also, maybe sometimes we don't think on those in those terms, and I understand when we say, well, the Baltics are not safe, just to resonate that there is a need to more input in defense, but it also can have another trigger of scaring off potential investors. And this is particularly why I'm saying this. We see it's not the case when it comes to European investors. We see Lithuania is being blessed right now of huge announcements, both by Taiwan opening the bank, and Germany is opening its branch as well, the bank. So those are good things, of course, for the whole region in general. But if we look at the U.S. investment in the Baltics, well, I think, and it will be speculation, but maybe someone can look up. And I think there's more investment in the Balkans than in Baltics. And this is something also, it's a signal. One thing is having the political investment in defense from your taxpayers as well, but how about your private businesses? Why are they not investing in the Baltic countries? Because we keep saying Baltics are not safe. And that's wrong. That was my last 5 cents. We can differently kind of shape these narratives, but for example, the security risks have been increasing, but it's not endangering the safety of the Baltics, because then again, if we say the Baltics are not safe and we have US troops in the Baltics, it somewhat resonates what I said in LA, one of the senators who said that there is no point of actually confronting Russia. Russia is unbeatable. Practically saying there is no point of NATO because Russia is unbeatable. And this is something that, if the politicians in US starts to also articulate it, it has an impact, and not the positive one. Well, once again, thank you for organizing this. I have to leave. And Marko, good to see you. See you in Tbilisi. And Conrad, Darius, and the rest. I hope I'm going to see you sooner than later in the US as well. So great. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, yes. Yes.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Marko, I know it's late in Kyiv, and I'm praying that there's no sirens going off in the background, but you have any statement?
Yeah, no, it's rather late, and it has been a long day for me as well. So it's great to be with you guys and to really go through in our thoughts what today, the Black Ribbon Day or 23rd of August means for all of us. I agree with Rihard. Actually, when we go back to the year 1939 or 1989, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania were those years much more in danger and insecure. Today, we are better off in terms of security and defense. Obviously, it is very turbulent, and not only in our close neighborhood, when it comes to Russia, but also when we think about what's going on in the Middle East or in Africa or in East Asia. This is why it is incredibly important to work together for all democracies, democracies here in Europe, across Atlantic, and also in the Pacific. So it's all new set of challenges what our free world today has, and when it comes to a question of the Baltic Way and how that could be kind of as an example for other nations. When I refer to Belarus and Georgia, actually this is also goes along with Taiwanese and others today to really share the freedoms which are in danger by autocrats who right now using conventional force as we speak here in Ukraine against Ukraine, and not only against Ukraine, because Russia's aim is not only to destroy this nation here, but also entire democratic world order. So we are lucky, actually, as a free people, to have Estonians, Latvians, and Lithuanians as a front fighters for freedom to be preserved, and this is why we have such a strong identity of freedom and understanding of freedom, is that we never get tired fighting for that. Thank you, guys. I also have to leave you for tonight. It was incredibly important day and opportunity to join you, and hope to see you soon in person.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you so much for all your work. Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless.
Thank you.
Professor, do you have any final statement of our conversation before you go?
What a final statement. My final statement was already made when I asked and called to speak about today, not mostly on commemoration of the past. Today, the Baltic Way, what is the Baltic Way? It is a fight for freedom and for the normal right of nations to live in freedom. What is denied, brutally denied by those what I call Stone Agers, would want to change the world into two parts, one of violence and one of normal human relations and democracy. And those fighting for violence, they think that they will win. They may collect majority of world nations for the very outdated principles, refusing the humanist and Christian principles. So it is the point on which the world stays today. And Baltic Way story and liberation of Baltic states, it was the little part of that struggle of Europe to stay for freedom, because Europe may become enslaved by Russia as well, and that's going enslaving via economy, via influence on young generation, becoming more and more red and radical. That is this struggle for the future of mankind. And very good to remind the story of Baltic Way and the liberation of Baltic nations. But it was an exemplary miracle that once in history, the goodwill should prevail. The good will prevail over the violence and arrogancy of cannibals. And that is to be remembered and uh, uh, repeatedly underlined that it is possible. Anyway, the European nations are able to survive in a Christian culture and in humanist culture. They proved it. In those days of Baltic Way, it was
Oh, we lost him.
Did we lose you? It was getting good. Professor? Let me change the setting real quick. And
yeah, if you're looking for that, I don't want to start, but we just wanted to finish up by talking a little bit about our call to action on our website. While I'm speaking, Conrad can put the link up. Thank you, everybody who has decided to sign on today, for your participation. And we would love to have you look on our website. We have a call to action. A call to action is essentially a request to our constituency and Friends of the Baltics to get involved in sending a letter to Congress, reaching out to their member of Congress. And we make it as simple as we can by having you put your name, your address, and you are automatically sent to those congressional offices with a pre-populated letter. We choose a couple of topics a year. We focus on Ukraine assistance. We've looked at the NATO summit. We are right now working on a call to action on the Baltic Security Initiative. It's to support annual appropriations for the Baltic Security Act and other security assistance towards the Baltic states. So please take a look at that. We just have a couple more months we're in this Congress. We're also going to be looking for support for legislation to support Ukraine. There'll be a Ukraine summit in October, or I'm sorry, in September. And we will be working with them to try and fill some spots where they need constituents. And there's also legislation to support Ukraine that would be very helpful, like designating Russia as a state sponsor of terror, and other things that we can do, even though there's not going to be another vote on a supplemental for Ukraine this year. So again, I encourage everybody to go onto our website, www.baffle.com, and feel free to send me a chat as well, a question, ANNE@baffle.com.
Thanks, Ann. Oshta, thank you for joining us as one of our sponsors of the show. Introduce yourself and what you have coming up soon. Oshta?
I'm the board president of Flow USA, and we are a nonprofit organization working in Ukraine on the ground. We have a logistics team and we have a medics team, and we've been there since we were founded in 2019 to work together with Lithuania. We have actually been ourselves on the ground since before the full invasion in February of 2022. We also work on the advocacy side. We're very involved in much of what goes on in DC and elsewhere, because all of these components work together. What's done outside Ukraine influences Ukraine within. I wanted to speak to what Danuta and Tony had said. Recently, Žygis was at an event here in Chicago, and it was for Lithuanians. And Lithuanians got up and asked him why we're involved in Ukraine. Ukraine has no meaning for us. It is not. I have to stand back and tell myself, where are these people getting their information? Do they speak Russian apparently? Do they not look at even the Russian media when they say Lithuania is one, it belongs to us. Everything belongs to us. So we have a lot of work to do, not only without our communities, but within our communities to inform and to educate. And some of this comes with the communities themselves being willing to hear people speak. We, as Blue Yellow, have not been allowed to speak, for example, to the Lithuanian American community about what is going on in Ukraine. We were told that when the Lithuanian American community decides to hear topics, hear voices about Ukraine, they will let us know. They will invite a bunch of people. It's been 2 years. No one has invited us. And we, being on the ground, are the ones who can go, here's what's going on. Here's what's going on in DC because we're there. And here's what's going on in the social media arena between different groups. What Russia actually has planned for Lithuanians, for Latvians, for Estonians, and for parts of Europe. They are now repeating that they're going to go all the way to Berlin. So I think personally there's a definite threat there. And yes, they're not getting far in Ukraine, but that doesn't mean that they can't do other things, such as hybrid warfare in Europe. They're already jamming air traffic control. They're doing their bombing places. We know that there are these things going on in Europe. So if the communities, start in the communities, if the communities are willing to listen, then they get educated and informed, and then you get a presence elsewhere. We do not have a single Baltic person of Baltic heritage in Congress right now, except Durbin, who's going to be leaving soon. What happens after Durbin? We're all talking about it at a recent event that was for Senator Blumenthal. It was an off-the-record event here in Chicago, and the entire Ukrainian community was represented. We were there, and my cousin for the Lithuanian community, and we heard this. There are too few from our communities in Congress actually helping to advocate. So, and that comes from, I believe, not educating our youth that is growing and getting educated here in America, and our, younger people that are already out there and working to participate more in the various in the various actions that we're trying to take to support Lithuania and so on, so that in a year or two we don't have to go back to, we're preserving Lithuania's heritage in America because we don't know what's going to happen to it in Lithuania. We need to keep the Baltics free and Europe free and Ukraine free. And to do this, we've got to work together and become much more proactive in our advocacy.
I would say, about why it's important. So the region that has been occupied by Russia and Ukraine, look at the map, look at the geographical square footage, and it's about the same size as the Baltic states.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think that it's just going to be NATO, we have to stay strong together always. Always. We can't let up, and we have to support all these initiatives, all these congressional initiatives to strengthen the Baltics and put in permanent NATO bases, permanent U.S. bases in the Baltics. In there. Thank you, Oshta. And then what's this Saturday? What are you planning? Or is it Sunday? I'm sorry, I'm trying to. My dates are mixing up.
This full weekend, there are events going on. So there's an event today on the 23rd. We try to join Ukrainians when they have an event. So they have their national flag event this evening downtown. Then there's another event tomorrow for Ukrainian Independence Day. And then our Baltic Way event is on Sunday. And we have all the information posted everywhere for people to come and join us for that event. And actually, let me give you the time and the location real quick.
Absolutely.
And we will be joined by Ukrainians because we feel that we are free now. We're commemorating are events that got us to that freedom, but not everyone is free yet. And if we don't help Ukraine, then we're going to wind up in the same position we were in years ago. Just 1 second. Let me just quickly go to
Absolutely.
our page.
And I've typed in other events in the description of this video. So there's one coming in San Diego tomorrow. There's a concert tonight in Philadelphia. A DC event happened just this DC time, 11 a.m., I think. So that just occurred, and that's why, J-Bank, thank you for watching and organizing that event. If I'm not mentioning a city, post in the comments and to start organizing now. You know, what I believe with leadership, it doesn't wait for anybody. So if you have an idea, be brave, just like the Baltics on August 23rd, 1989, that day, and stand up, and we will be your connecting chain with connecting all the Baltics at your idea.
So the Sunday event starts at 2 o'clock downtown Chicago at Maggie Daley Park, which is at 337 East Randolph. For anybody who's from Chicago, please come and join us. We will have speakers, the other things happening there. And again, we are finding local allies, Poland, Romania, the Baltics, and Ukraine, of course. And we will be focused on Ukraine.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for your
Conrad?
support, Osha, with everything. And so somebody was Donetta, did you have a question?
I just wanted to mention the event tomorrow in San Diego at Mission Bay Park at 1 p.m. The Lithuanian community of San Diego welcomes everyone to come and participate at Mission Bay Park, 1 p.m. and for the meetup.
Absolutely. Any final words, Osha? Thank you for joining us.
So I was living in Berlin in 1988 and 89 when the Baltic Way formed and when the wall came down. And being there in person was an emotionally overwhelming event. And when that effort and that work is not followed through with at later times, for example, when my daughter was in Kherson and was being shelled as she was doing search and rescue operations, she said to me, everything I've learned before was abstract, all our history, where we were, and so on, until today, when I witnessed what the Russians do to human beings who are running for their lives while being shelled, and as the dam exploded and the waters flooded the area. You can only understand what Lithuanians must have felt then, what the Balts must have felt then, what the Poles must have felt then when they were occupied. And it's hard work to keep it free. And I think that's really important to understand, that just because isn't going to, we have to work for our freedom all the time.
Thank you. And lots of love to Emma for all of her hard work out in Ukraine, and to your family. It has a long history of very strong women in the last 100 years, and it's a very, very strong and inspirational.
And Darius.
Thank you.
Conrad,
Thank you.
are you going to hand the baton to Darius?
Yes, absolutely. But before I jump on to Dario, I just highlighted a comment here. Find, recruit local allies, candidates, and activists. Move on, individual, run for something. So, for all you out there that are very interested in being volunteering for the next 3 or 4 months, reach out to us, because we are putting a program together of some kind of people local on the ground to help, with our initiatives for Baltic American Freedom League. So reach out to us if you feel fired up after this session, and we'll put together a program with you, because we can work together. And gosh, remember 1989, there was no internet, there's no cell phones. There should be no excuse for us to stay connected at this time. So Dario, oh, you're on mute.
We can't hear you, Darius.
Dario.
Biggest apologies.
Okay.
Internet connection was very poor. I'm at the moment in Lithuania, and actually, as soon as Rihard Kols started to speak about, Russia, and internet disappeared. And I know that Professor Gintas Palubinskas wanted to join. Professor Dovilė Budrytė, former president of Association Advancement of Baltic Studies. Saulius Kuprys, president of American Lithuanian Council in Chicago. Robert Vytautas, Lithuanian Research Center president from Chicago, wanted to join us here. But I think that probably, we experienced some technical internet connection issues. But I think we have to remember those three secret protocols. First protocol, August 23, 1939. Lithuania was assigned to sphere of influence of Germany, other Baltic states, Finland, to sphere of influence of Soviet Union. 28th of September, Lithuania was already sold to the Soviets, except the tiny strip of land in the west of Lithuania, Mariampolė strip, and the 1941, 10th of January, this small strip of Lithuanian land illegally was sold by Germany for $7,500,000 to the Soviets. All these deals, all these spheres of influence, they have been illegal in the past, they are legal now, and our message to decision makers and policy makers: don't do deals with the Kremlin. That didn't work. The Kremlin broke all the deals, and this is in the presidential library of Harry Truman. Actually, the Soviets broke every single deal. Don't make the deals with the Kremlin beer. You have to agree that there are no spheres of influence. There are no areas of Russian dominance in Europe. No more Munichs, no more Yaltas.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
100%
You wanted to
correct.
Conrad? Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to raise your hand.
Okay. No, I didn't know if I was mute or not. The point
Nope.
is this, that I wanted to just emphasize the fact that we, as Baltic Americans, spread out across 50 states of the United States, have opportunities to advocate to Congress. And the program that is set up through BAFL, Baltic American Freedom League website, if one introduces their name, address, and zip code, it automatically tells you who your congressional representative is and who your U.S. senators are. And it is so easy to automatically, with the pre-programmed letter, to advocate and contact their offices immediately. It is the most wonderful type program that did not exist years ago and gives us the capability nationwide to reach every aspect of Congress of the United States. And it is something that we should utilize. All of us here who live freely in the United States have the ability to advocate our views to the members of Congress. Most of the Congress is very favorable to the Baltic nations. We have already 100 years of representation going back to 1922 never interrupted or stopped by the United States. We are members of NATO. Therefore, we have all the arguments, but we also have many friends in the American public. It doesn't have to be a Baltic American who accesses this program, but all of our friends, relatives, and friends can support the Baltic nations by utilizing this baffle tool.
Absolutely.
says it all.
And I have it on screen. You just type in your information. Your senators and your congressmen will populate. There's a section in there if you want to add in a personalized note of if your family came from Estonia, from Latvia, Lithuania, or you have friends and family from there, or you've been there. You can type in that personalized message into there. And as soon as you hit the send button, it will send to your representatives. Very simple, very easy, doesn't take more than 5 minutes. And I know a lot of people are hesitant to doing it because of different reasons. I've heard, I'm not brave enough to speak with somebody of the opposite party that I am. I'm a Republican, they're a Democrat, I'm a Republican, etc. They work for you. They are your representative. So they have to hear from you. And as soon as they get that message, we see that certain senators and congressmen get these messages. And then I see it and sees it on our website. And then we start setting up meetings because they say start to get curious. And, can tell you, staff says we want to hear from the constituents. That's you. They want to hear from you. And I will say that every time Ann and I have these meetings with these congressional staff, they start to get curious. They want to know more and more and more because we provide significant amount of resources and information for them. And what happens next? They take a trip, a CODEL, congressional delegation, to Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, and they see what's going on. They see on the ground exactly what's going on. And what I will say this, every person that we've known attend these trips become a stronger supporter. So we need you to contact your representatives.
Thank you so much, Konrad, what you do, and Anne and Tony and Danutė. And thank you so much for our keynote speakers, President Vytautas Landsbergis, Chairman, Vice Chairman of Lithuanian Parliament, Žygimantas Pavilionis. He's currently on a flight back to Lithuania. Chairman, Member of European Parliament, Rihard Kols, and also Chairman of Foreign Relations Committee, Marko Mihkelson, Linas, and all the others. Thank you so much for joining us.
This has been a very rich afternoon. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I hope we permanently have a setup on YouTube with this because we can also update and have continuous worldwide attention to this Baltic issue if it's set up.
This is the first broadcast, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's the first live one. We had a practice. We've had several practices, and we had a preview session. This is the first one with a very all-star panel, and I'm very thankful for everybody that attended this, and thankful, and I'd love to have an hour conversation with this Baltcast. I'd love to have a sit down with Blue Yellow. I'd love to sit down with Landsbergis, with each of the Musketeers, just anybody that is in a very significant mover in this region. We have the means and resources to do that, and we have an audience.
Linas Koyalis needs 8 hours, but all of those people that Darius mentioned, you could probably do a broadcast with each one of them because they're very significant as to what they're doing in the movement.
I feel bad due to the interest of time. We couldn't get a minute from them to speak on here.
Well, we're at 1 hour and 40 minutes, right?
Yeah, and thank you everybody that jumped on, and Tony or Danuta, you have a final word?
Well, first of all, I want to give tremendous thanks to Anne for helping to help set up not only this, but the complete congressional action campaign that goes on daily. It is absolutely a fantastic opportunity that we have, and her services are outstanding, but also experience of many years. And she has the ears of many, many congressional staffs and congressional people. It is worth gold so far as our access to the Congress of the United States. And secondly, to Darius, I would ask that through his influence with the representatives from the Baltic nations, that they advocate to the American Baltic community that they need us, that they need us to use our constitutional rights here in the United States as citizens, that we at any time can pick up a phone or computer and contact our congressional representative. And the response by us in doing that has been extremely high. I think the numbers were like a 27% response to our campaigns from congressional people, and it's growing. They're getting used to us, and we're also using the history of the past. So we need you guys to tell us how we can help you.
Dario, final statement?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Bethel. It's so important what you do. And please continue.
Anne, you have a final statement?
Thank you. No. I'm just, everyone who's listening, everything that you do, it does matter. Participating does matter. And so thank you for staying here with us, and www.baffle.com. And Darius, just tremendous bringing in. This is history. We were talking to patriots. This is something that we will be talking to Congress about. So much appreciated.
And as far as I'm concerned, Anne's point of having Baltic background congressional representatives come forward from the youth of this country to bring more so to the front lines, a Lithuanian, Latvian, Estonian heritage congressperson, or 2 or 3, 50 states. So let's, and plus territories. There is a lot out there, and all of your help could really, really be very useful for the Baltics. And we do need to have our people into the power positions of this country.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you for participating, and I'll just close it out. We do have a sponsor, and panel, thank you so much for staying on this entire time. You can be backstage and watch it from this end, or if you want to log off and watch it on YouTube, it's entirely up to you. But Dario, thank you so much for your work and incredible job. And Tony Danuta, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay. This episode was sponsored by Lithuanian Days, which is coming up on October 5th and 6th. So I'm just going to play a video here. It's just to give more information, because as a good supporter of our organization, I wanted to give forward them the opportunity for them to broadcast their event. So just my interview with them. Thank you for joining in, everybody, for just a quick promo segment from the organizers of the Lithuanian Days in Los Angeles. which will be coming up very soon here October 5th and 6th. I'm here with the organizers, Laura Remeke and Tara Barauskas. Just first of all, just tell us who you are and what who you represent.
Well, hello everyone. I'm Laura Remeke. I'm the president of the Lithuanian Days, and we have a big committee. And Tara is a vice president of the Lithuanian Days, and it's a big event, and it's gonna be happening on October 5th and 6th of this year. It's annual event that we're having every year. It's 38 Lithuanian Days this year.
38 years. Excellent. I guess the question to the two of you, what would you expect if you were a non-Lithuanian and you showed up to St. Casimir's Church on October 5th and 6th?
Well, I can start and just say that it's a celebration of Lithuanian culture. So when you walk in, the first thing you'll hear is music. So we have lots of really interesting singers, dancers, and performers who come every year. It's different every year. And they like to perform for us. So you'll be hearing music and all that all day long. So it's wonderful. And then, of course, the next thing you're going to notice is smells of amazing food. And that's one of the big attractions of coming to Lithuanian Days is you can sample Lithuanian food here that you won't get anywhere else in Los Angeles. Everything from cold beet soup to hot potato pancakes and cepelinai, which are like, dumplings with meat stuffed inside with bacon and sour cream. So all the good stuff. So I don't know, Laura, what else would you add?
Well, traditional beverages like krupnikas, it's a honey-based liquor, and Lithuanian beer as well.
That's true. That's very popular.
Yeah.
And there's also lots of great shopping you can do. So we have people who come and they sell handmade items, many amber jewelry sellers. So that's always fun for us ladies, and lots of really unique gifts that you can buy for Christmas. I always do some Christmas shopping there. And there's also lots of art. So art from all over the world, different painters and different artists who display their art.
Yeah, and also amber jewelry. It's a lot of them too to choose from.
It's not just for the ladies, though. I also got
That's true. That's true.
So it's not just for the ladies, So
they have T-shirts too, clothing, and yeah, they do.
Yeah, and for the kids, there's always great ice cream, made with real butter and cream, so it tastes really good. And of course, kids programming. There's always plays and activities and things for the kids to do.
Now, usually we, at Lithuanian Days, there is groups that come to perform from outside of Los Angeles. Is there anybody outside coming this year?
Yes, we have a few performances coming from Lithuania. So it's a group of Bavaria. It's 3 people singing, 3 guys. And also we have Violeta Rečkauskaitė. She is one of the performers from Lithuania as well. We do have another group. It's called El Fuego. 2 guys are singing from Lithuania. And we're going to have this year capella. Probably 8 people in the group, so it's gonna be a performance from Lithuania. And we do have a dance group called Rusne from Chicago. We have another singer from Chicago, so usually we do have a lot of people, not just from Los Angeles, but like from a different states of the United States, different places.
So, and we also have local Los Angeles dancers. So Laura and I are both in the dance group Retro, and Conrad as well. And we wear our traditional Lithuanian folk costumes. So that's a real treat to get to see all the beautiful costumes that people will be wearing while they're dancing.
Yeah, it's fun to be part of, to be part of the performances and everything else. And I guess it's always fun where everyone comes at the end and dances together to the Trys Milijonai You know, it doesn't matter who you are. You know, if you're close to the
Exactly.
stage, someone's going to grab your hand and you're in the circle. So it's
Yeah.
a lot of fun.
Well, and
everybody.
Lithuanian Days is also one of the largest Lithuanian cultural festivals outside of Lithuania. So it's a lot of people coming and joining us in Los Angeles. Sometimes we have up to like 2,000 to 3,000 people per weekend. So it's a lot of people to see. To meet your old friends and to get the new ones. That's a perfect place to meet.
Yeah, as an Lithuanian American, it's always fun to go every year because I always see someone new that I haven't seen in 10, 15, 20 years. And like, whoa, oh, you got a kid. Oh, wow. You know, it's fun to kind of, it's like the North American Lithuanian like diaspora event of the year, which is, it's always fun. It's always fun to bring friends and family, you know, involved, and it's fun to reconnect with the old friends for over the years.
Yeah. And I have teenage sons now who love to go to the evening concert and hang out with their friends. So there's something for every age group, young people, older people, kids, everything in between.
Absolutely. It's good family fun, and from you know, light to dark. Who's gonna be the Grand Marshal this year?
Well, we decided to nominate Sigita Borisienė. She is our dance group coach, but also she is very involved in Lithuanian community, and she represents a lot of she's helping Arvydas Urbonavičius. He is the main head of the Lithuanian community in America. So we're nominating her this year.
Wonderful. It's a wonderful honor. Known her for some time, and it's a well-deserved award because she really, over the years, she always, you know, gives to the Los Angeles Lithuanian community all of her heart and soul, 7 days a week, for years. So it's good that she's been being recognized. Okay.
I also wanted to mention that this year the event aligns with the 100-year celebration of Lithuanian Song Festival in Lithuania. So you're gonna hear some of the, part of the program. Whoever could not be in Lithuania, they could see a little bit of the program, like some songs and some dances from that festival of this year's Lithuanian Dance and Song Festival.
Yeah, that was a wonderful event to be part of, I would say, as a performer. And I think bringing what people couldn't afford to go to Lithuania for that trip, I think that's wonderful that you're bringing Lithuania back to get, share with everyone on there. And I guess, where do we get tickets?
Eventbrite or at the gates.
Wonderful. We're going to be leaving the link to the Eventbrite in the description of this YouTube, and so you can click on it and purchase a ticket. Any final words?
Well, please come and join us. It's really fun. You'll meet a lot of people. You'll try different food, and it's a lot of fun. Everybody likes it. It's really good, fun event for anyone, I would say.
Tara?
Yeah, and I would just also add that, we have a really vibrant community, lots of people who volunteer their time for many years to bring our community together. And we have a lot of nonprofits that work for different causes to support Lithuania and to support Ukraine now. So if you come, you can get a chance to learn about those nonprofits and find out how you can support them as well. So you can have fun and you can do good as well. So I hope we'll see you there.
Absolutely. Ladies, thank you for coming on and sharing this wonderful event. I'm excited for it, and it's fun. Thank you.
And
Bye-bye.
don't forget to check our website at ltdays.com.
Excellent.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Bye.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
See you then.
Bye.
So to Lithuanian Days, in the description of this video, you can purchase your ticket right now on Eventbrite. So the link is in the description, along with the call to action for your congressional representative. And we're always updating it, so always come back for whatever upcoming legislation that we're working on. So to support Baltic American Freedom League, there's a couple ways that you can go about it. You can send in a donation to our PO box. It's in our website bafl.com. You can support us and our initiatives by participating in the congressional action. You can also support us by liking and commenting and sharing this video with all your friends and family, because judging by the comments that I'm seeing in here and the emails and text messages I've been getting in the last 20 minutes, it sounds like you guys want more from us. So and I'm really happy about this, because I feel like this is a great mean for us, because I like to talk about this issue a lot. I can talk to anybody for hours on end, and this is just a fantastic medium to do it. Also, as you can see my shirt, this is the classic 1991 Baltic American Freedom League, when we were fighting against the deoccupation final days of the Soviet Union. We have it, the link to our store in the description. So if you wanted to buy this shirt, now it is updated with our new Baffle website, because we didn't have a website in 1991. And it also has a QR code in the bottom that you can actually scan. And when you're talking to your friends and having a pint or a cup of coffee, you can scan that code and say, okay, do you love the Baltics? Scan it here, type in your message to your congressman, and send a message and help us with our initiative. So thank you all for joining us on this broadcast. And on this momentous day that it was a dark day in Europe in 1939, but the Baltics, with a rising hope and a rising energy, brought forth freedom, independence, and a wonderful vision of the future of Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia on August 23rd, 1989. Let's not let that day fade away. Let's continue this work, and we would love for your support in any way possible, and you can find us any way. Thank you for watching. If you missed this live and watched this all the way to the end, thank you so much for watching the rebroadcast of this. All right. Good night, good evening, good morning to everyone out there. Thanks.